All right, so we're going to dive into the market data to review from July, this past month. To give a recap, so this comes out once a month. It hits usually 3, 4 days after the end of the month. Okay, now it's continually available. There is a level of like it updating on some categories. For example, like we'll see more closed sales, uh, you know, grow from 602 today to as agents close out, listings that did close in July, they're still in pending status. But I want you to explore this from the notion of really being purposeful to make sure that this is part of your business to review and get entrenched with on a monthly basis, and to really review this, or to have the perspective of what you're looking to accomplish by reviewing this data, be a number of different aspects, one of which is there a lead generation strategy that you can pull from this data? Is there a lead follow-up or a pipeline conversion strategy or technique or tactic that you can use by understanding this data? And then what's the marketing opportunity and social media opportunity kind of tied together on the marketing side of it that you can incorporate into your business by having consistency to be in tune with the data and to understand it. So I do want there to be like we got to raise our hands, right? If you have questions about this stuff that I'm going to probably fly through, like be, purposeful and vulnerable to ask a question, because I guarantee you somebody else has the same question. Okay. So to look at this analytically, well, first of all, we're looking at single family homes in Monroe County is what this view is. Okay. And I'm doing that because really, that's the bread and butter for most, right? Now, if you have a business where you're located in uh, Livingston County and not as much into Monroe County, then yeah, like know your data in Livingston County, right? For the most part, a lot of us are Monroe County based, single family home based. So to really, kind of understand the bread and butter becomes important. Here's what you can correlate from this data. One, pricing still increasing year over year. This left side shows the difference between July of last year, and this right side shows the difference between June of last month. Okay. So on a year over year basis, we're still 8.6% of an increase in pricing. Market's still appreciating, market's still growing. With that said, we also have a lot of just other strong seller market signs, like 7 median days on the market and 119% was the sale price ratio, even though it's decreased slightly, and 1 month supply of inventory. To give a reminder, 4 months supply of inventory would represent a balanced market, at least from the old textbook, so to speak, and we're at 1, and that's really a really significant indicator as to how strong of a seller's market this has been. However, you see, it was 0.7 a year ago, and it did increase from last month. The biggest pull that you can take from this data is going to be this active inventory uh, data point. Okay. New listings versus active inventory would describe new listings are just that new to the market. Active inventory essentially becomes what's remaining on the market, what's active on the market, at this snapshot of time. And to be able to see, well, first of all, our new listing data coming down from June, but still up substantially from July of last year, is obviously a strong supply sign for the market. The active inventory gets interesting because basically having this much of a jump year over year plus this much of a jump from last month these listings aren't selling at the same level that they were previously, even though our days on market is the same and list of sales price is the same and month supply inventory is still extremely low. This is the start of if this were to continue at this pace, this is how markets shift. Now, what I can tell you is that the demand side is this what I'm going to say here isn't pictured, but I have the ability to track data through showing time, and I just consistently follow it. And I've seen that drop in the last couple weeks, comparatively speaking. Now, historically, that week after the 4th of July ends up being the start of the downturn of seasonality of the market. Like we run this peak, and you kind of see it here with this pricing, right? Like, I mean, first of all, pricing's higher than last year, but you see July and you see it start to come down into the fall, right? Down further into January, into February at the bottom, right? And then starts to climb back up, March, April, etc. That seasonality that plays out every single year like that. Okay. So just understand that the seasons actually do have a pretty significant impact on the marketplace. And you'll see, that up and down peaks and valleys type of thing, or process, I should say, every year. So, we've come off the peak of the market essentially at this point, is what July is telling us. And we've also, we've got these kind of the cliffhanger to this is like, okay, if as inventory continues to increase at the rate that it is, and the demand continues to have a decline like it does, well, that's how markets shift. So really the whole question becomes like, is that going to be the trend, or are we just experiencing seasonality right now? If you wanted my bet, I'd be happy to put my foot in my mouth. If I'm wrong, I'd be willing to bet this is more of a seasonal thing than like a massive shifting market type of dynamic that's going to play out permanently for
It happens every year.
Yep. The last group that I just ran with experienced agents, like it was a comment like, it feels like it did last year, July wise too. You just have like the way to describe the seasons of the market from benchmark dates, like um let's just move forward, I guess. You have like now until Labor Day will be a certain feel of the market. Then Labor Day, kids go back to school, summer's over, then that Labor Day till like Thanksgiving market, a little before it really. Then you have the holidays, like nobody does shit because holidays are here, right? You're not capable of doing anything during the holidays. Is how we go as humans, right? That's okay. And that type of market. Then you have like here's what I can tell you. This is what may be surprising. Like after New Year, like the day after New Year's Day, you'll feel the activity increase if you're active. Like your phone will ring. Like I go into after the holidays and after New Year, like every year, just like trying to gather a pulse for like, is our phone ringing? Is there more of a flow coming than the holiday time? Is that I can feel confident, like, okay, same type of stuff, the same formula this year, it's happening again, good. Or like, ooh, nobody came out of the woodwork after the holidays, that's a problem. Then you have that deep winter, wait for things to thaw out till the spring. Then you have spring market, really. I mean, frankly, depending on when things thaw out, if you can recall this year, like it was cold well into the spring. That affects the market. So depending on when the season starts to change weather-wise is really the start of peak market conditions for the spring. But hopefully that gets into be April, May, June is where the peak lasts till, and then you have 4th of July, and that's you know, back to the start of the cycle that we started. This is the 6 county area, so really the whole region, and then all property types. So you see, basically the same trends in data. You see there's actually a little more of an increase price wise, at 10% versus 8 and change. The one thing I didn't mention before, Monroe County, and then this, we're down 17% in closed sales from the same time as last year. So real estate's in a recession transactionally because we've been since 2022, we've been declining in the total number of homes that are selling each year in this bottom of the barrel type of thing. And for us locally, like this shows that we're still not out of it, still at the bottom. But again, a lot of extreme sellers market conditions and this wild card factor of inventory and what's going to happen with it from here. If we keep seeing these significant increases, it's less so the active inventory is less, compared to a year ago, less extreme compared to Monroe County. But it still has that, okay, there's 9% more homes in July compared to June when, July had slightly less listings compared to June. That's a trend setting type of thing if it continues. If those increases, get closer to zero and the month supply stays the same, then it'll still be in extreme sellers. Questions about data?
Pretty much what's happens every year.
Yes. Yep. Yep. It's kind of, if I were to write a book at this point describing real estate, the more things change, the more they stay the same. This is the way it feels. Now, this inventory, dynamic in the conversation is really kind of that's the wild card. That could be what causes change. That could be what actually causes a shift, right? And the rest of the country is in a spot where too much inventory, not enough demand. That's what I just described is like trending right now. So if that continues locally, then yeah, you can expect a lot different feel of the market. Right now, what I'm saying is like the feel that you're hearing about out there or feeling yourself is based on this increase in inventory. It's there's always I don't know because that's where it's going to be like, okay, what is this market defined as? Right. And I think August, like I was saying, July is a really key, is going to be key to see the data. Even more so with August as we get, because like we knew July would be off the peak most likely if seasonality were cooperating. So if August continues to cooperate on the normal cycle of things, we'll start to see it, especially into September, right? But if we just see like, if I can track low and reducing demand through showing time with increase in supply, then it's like, okay, this is not happening as normal and we are shifting. Right now, it's just like we've got some seasonality, we've got some reduced supply, we've got some reduced demand, and we've got some increase in supply, and overall, still strong sellers market though, but you gotta be careful. So let's segue into I was going to say seller conversations, but really conversations with buyers or sellers. And, how to understand this data to translate into tangible action to take, right? Like, let's think lead follow-up or pipeline follow-up and conversion. If you got buyers that are struggling, hey, I know it's tough out there, but the data is showing that there's more opportunities for us and there's actually less competition that you're going against. Let's reconnect, let's re-engage, let's get out there and revise our plan and really get into it if you're ready for it. from a marketing and social media standpoint, like what are you doing to provide this information to your people on a monthly basis? Gotta understand that real estate is a major part of the economy, like a major function of the overall economy. So it becomes interesting for people, right? Also understand the opportunity that exists is that there's very few resources available for local education on the real estate data to the local market. Like all the headlines are going to be nationally based, right? So what your people are consuming is national headline related stuff. So if you can be the source that is educating and providing this information, and to get it, you're just going here in your main screen on your MLS, right? This market stats button here. Or you plug it in once a month to figure out, okay, are there any lead generation opportunities here? And same type of thing. Like, I mean, you know, it gets a little aggressive when you just blindly call people in your database and letting them know, hey, this market's kind of shifting. I don't know if you have anybody or if you're looking to make any real estate moves, but it might be worth talking. Personally, with no context to a need or a desire to do something in real estate, my style is that's a little too aggressive. Now, to achieve the same and to flip it with a lead generation conversation to where it's like, hey, I know it's tough to find local real estate data, news, and information. I have it. Would you be interested in receiving it? That's a lead generation conversation or tactic. What I said is fine too. It's just, we've all got this desire and fear, rightfully so, of being salesy. You see the difference there? Yeah. Option one, you haven't talked to somebody in 3 months. You don't think there's a need or a want to do anything in real estate. What's the better option? Option one, hey, market shifting, you interested in getting in? Or, hey, market's pretty interesting out there, and I know that local data and information is usually pretty short list of resources. I'd love to provide it for you if you need it. There's a difference between like taking this lesson, training wise, right? And downloading the information for yourself, so to speak, and having it serve your memory well and, being a good student, right? And learning about your business that you're in and the market that you're operating in. There's a difference between that learning base and actually using this. Now let's talk specific strategies with sellers, right? Because that's what's really relevant. Okay. First of all, if anybody has a listing coming up, you need to be getting with me. Okay. Don't just wing it. What I'm here for, right? But really kind of to me, I would think of this simply as there's really two options to choose from. And in this market condition right now, currently, where we're describing overall like lower level of demand and higher level of supply, you've got to be really careful to just assume that there's going to be a bidding war on every single listing. That bodes well for the buyer side of the business too, to when you're kind of really in the details, figuring out which listing is competitive and not, in order to make recommendations to your buyers. That's a practice that needs to be
You think people listing homes are gonna be pricing it more at probably like what it's actually gonna go for?
so the question of transparent pricing,
Yeah,
right, is the kind of relatively new lingo type of jargon word in the industry. And yeah, if the question is that going to happen more and more? I think so. Because I think, you know, two paths as to why it would happen. One, there's enough stories and enough experience that play out to where like, we tried the bidding war thing and it didn't work and we struck out. and now we're increasing the price or pulling the house off the market. And agents that have that context and how, you know, they're approaching the situation. But, agents more so is like the agents that are hearing this or reading the message boards, Facebook groups, whatever, right? And just like then hopefully taking that into consultation with sellers, be like, hey, listen, here's what's going on. Because now if you have like here's the data and here's why I'm hearing about everybody lose their mind in Facebook group because their listing went past delay. It's because we've had a 14% jump in active inventory from last month. And I'm seeing less data or less demand overall. So we got to be really careful with our strategy now. And if you want a bidding war, we got to price it so aggressively low that you're going to fall out of the chair with the number I tell you. So if you're a gambler, if you're okay with taking that risk, just understand like it's really tough for me to tell you where we end up. But yeah, we're still seeing a lot of great results by taking this strategy. It's just we really got to entice the market to get there. Or option two, here's where I think it would sell for. Are you happy with that number? And we price it transparently. We could still do delayed. And frankly, none of you have this context, but I can tell you, like, prior to delayed negotiations, so this was like 2018, 2017-ish. And keep in mind, we're in like low fours types of rates, interest rates in that time. So it was like still, not 6.5%, 7% like we're dealing with now. And pricing was a lot lower, right? So that was the start of this craziness happening. It would literally be a house would be sold in 3 hours, 6 hours. So we're so stupid. And it's easy to say with hindsight now, but we used to brag about, oh, I sold this house in a day.
Right. Not even know if we have it at all.
It was so new,
Mhm.
right? To where it was just like, oh my God, we got an offer we're happy with, and it's happening quickly. Yeah, it came out.
Mhm.
It was a nightmare dealing with it from the agent perspective. And buyers weren't happy either. I guess sellers were happy because they're like, oh, I really only need to deal with this process for 24 hours.
Mhm.
But I'm telling you, it was a nightmare. So, I guess my spin on delayed negotiations, even in a shifting market, would be, ultimately it's a spin because we're kind of favoring it as a convenience for us as agents and having to, get people in houses and whatnot, right? But the truthful spin is that, well, why don't we just get this out there and see what we get after a week, 5, 6 days, whatever. Because if we are going into this knowing that we're probably striking out at that deadline, but now I have a sample of activity and people that may be interested to go back to them aggressively and say like, hey, cheers if you want it before we make a push and get everybody else out here that miss round one. Like, do you want this? And also like in this seller's market conditions that we're still seeing of increasing pricing, low days on market, low month supply of inventory, high list to sale price ratio, crazier stuff's happened. So why don't we put it out there? Why don't we see what we get after an open house this weekend? 5 days private showings. Let's see what happens. Now I'm teeing you up to where it's like I'm not expecting a bidding war. Crazier things have happened, but what's going to happen next is on day 8, I'm going to be making these types of calls to everybody that's seen it. Hopefully we're not off and I don't have to tell you to reduce the price and it just sells days 8 to 14 on the market. But with the proper strategy teed up to where you set the expectations with the seller. Think of it this way. You're always telling people what happens next. If you're doing that, there's very little that you can do wrong so long as you haven't, missed the boat on what could happen next and you don't tell them. transparent pricing. It's more so like transparent process and strategy on our end as the agent making the recommendation. So really take kind of a two option approach into listings is my style. One to where it's like I am super confident and comfortable that we're going to get a bidding war, and in this market, like we're still seeing really great results with this strategy. But the name of the game is to price it low and let it ride. There's risk associated with that, so like if you're just not comfortable with that unknown, or if you don't want a bunch of people in your house, or say like their logistics, schedule wise or life wise, don't allow a lot of people to get in the home. If you got, a seller with two big dogs that they have to get out of the house every time it's being shown, that's probably not going to be a good combination of, that with a bidding war strategy because you just can't get, you're going to have, friction to getting as many people in there as you can. That becomes a problem. But with disclosure and transparency, like, look at, unless you want to take those dogs to a hotel for the week or get them out of here, empty this place out so I can just show it at will anytime. Then, okay, I don't think we should take that. Let's price it for the bidding war strategy and let's more so just price it where we're happy. I think it's going to sell for 250. What do you think? Now, what's untalked about with that strategy is that you're going to hear about it because it's like past delayed and it's like people make it out to be a negative. Does it?
Really bad, but
Does it look bad if your seller was expecting that result?
no, not here.
Right? That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Because the whole past delayed marketing opportunity is just that, a marketing opportunity to entice people. Hey, still available. We struck out. Our loss is your gain. Your sellers know that that's going to happen. They're good. I just did this last week with friends of mine. Here, I'll show you. So this is in the Strong neighborhood, right? Over here. Strong's right here. This neighborhood here is just prime, residents and doctors, few of our clientele. This house is tired. I can't really tell from the picture, but the roof is older. We had them go through, paint it, clean it out, but if anything, the pictures look better than what it is in person. It's not terrible, but just it's been a tenant occupied house for the last 10 years or so. They bought it when she was a resident doctor and moved on since. So I'm approaching it to where it's like your house just isn't nice enough for me to pull off a bidding war on. Or if we're gonna do it, like I told them, like it's gonna be like 179.9. And I don't know where we end up. And the market's funky enough right now to where one thing that's happening is buyers are picky and like people might sniff past it to where it's like, it needs too much work. We don't really want to take that on. We know they're going for a bidding war and let's just pass. That's a risk. 179.9 could have had, 35 showings and 10 offers and worked out great. Who knows? Doesn't matter. But that's what I was telling them if you want that bidding war, or like, hey, I think this is worth about 250. And if it were me, I would just price it there. We'll do delayed. If we get lucky, great. If not, here's what I'm going to do. Step 2, phase 2, round 2. Once we pass delay. Deadline for delayed came and went. We didn't have anything. They were totally fine. Hey, would have been great if we had a bidding war here, but we don't. And that's okay. We talked about it. Here's what I'm doing.
Did you write
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Mhm.
Well, so segue into, kind of I'll put this up. Be different, be authentic, right? Right now, nobody's really marketing transparent pricing publicly. I think if you're gonna go this route, one, you like have to have your seller's permission, right? You're just telling the marketplace, hey, seller's happy with this number, and they didn't know that you're gonna do that, right? That's not cool, right? You got a problem with it. But bold, it's aggressive, it's authentic, it's new. My take is like, I haven't done it yet, so I'm, not saying I'm not going to be first, but like eventually you're going to start to see things for the first time like that, like transparent pricing marketed to the public. And then what happens? Like this, I saved this article here because it's a couple weeks old at this point, but this was the third article on the same topic that I found in a week nationally of listings that are marketed for $1, obviously for a bid. We haven't seen that here yet, but anytime this is trending, like somebody will do it. And my point that I'm making here is to make sure that you have a response, right? Because you're gonna have buyers that are like, what the hell was this? Or can I get it for $5? Right? And do you know the response? You're gonna have, if you're in a listing appointment, you may have a seller that saw this exact article is like, what do you think if we price this for $1? And if you don't have a well thought out response to it, and you get stuck, that's a problem, right? So think of like all the different stuff that could be coming and how you're going to respond to it. This market just doesn't stay the same forever. And what I want you to really take advantage of is the ability to be authentic and to be different. If you, at this point, competition wise, I always say competitively speaking doesn't do us any good, but it's worth noting a lot of times that your competition is not very different. It's not very authentic, not doing things to differentiate themselves. So anytime you are, like you have an upper hand, and it could be just different to be able to handle, you know, a conversation with something unique versus just like, I really haven't come across that. That's not how the market operates, so there's no way we can do it. Versus like, I could, okay, see that working. Let's run with it. Willing to be bold. Now again, you got me to where it's like, I'll tell you if I feel you're a little too bold. Right? But don't be afraid to blaze a trail. Now, where this is really important is, I think I talked about it last time, right? But that attrition rate for your database, right? We dove into that, right? Who knows? Do either of you know what attrition is? Attrition? Yeah, basically like a failure rate. Like attrition in the industry would be agents leaving the business. Your database has attrition to it. Now, not wishing it to be due to mortality and death, right? But like if you don't set yourself apart from the competition, your database size, if it doesn't grow, will decrease because they're going to go find other agents that do. So the ability to really, create a unique value proposition and unique offerings and unique messages and, just being authentic and I mean, whatever. It starts, I guess, just being at a consistent level of communicating, period. But when you get to that point and now you're ready to go, from entrepreneurial to purposeful with your communication, and you really work, some outside of the box type of stuff into it, that's what gets people's attention. All right. I got again. Okay. Like with a client, I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. we'll dive in.
Mhm.
Just want to get through my agenda here and then open question time. I'm gonna give you 8 similarities amongst multimillionaires. So I'll have this in the summary, but 8 things to focus on that multimillionaires have in common. Number one is they all worked extremely hard for a long time. I think that's fairly obvious, but outside of silver spoon, trust fund type of inheritance, you're gonna have to work extremely hard if you want to be a multimillionaire. Sorry, it is what it is, right? Number two, they all have a very large database. See how that correlates to our business. Number three, they have a clear vision for the future and they're not complacent around it. I want you to think of this as like you have a goal that you are diligently chasing. I want you to take it a step further to where it's like right now there's 14 weeks left in the year that run us through the end of the first week of November. I'm using that week as signifying the end of 2025 from the standpoint of anything that goes under contract after the first week of November is likely going to close in January 2026. You may get lucky and you have something that's cash deal and goes under contract before Thanksgiving and they're able to get it closed before the end of the year. But keep in mind you have Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, you have, attorneys, banks, surveyors, etc., that are, on holiday time, right? As we talked earlier, people, stop their normal functioning during the holidays, whatever the reason. I get it, it's fun. But just that rambling to say there's 14 weeks left in the year that brings us through and first week of November. And I want you to be purposeful to like your clear vision for your future is tied to I need to close this many units in 2025 to be on track for my future. And I have 14 weeks to do it. And I'm not complacent. And I'm going to measure each week and have a plan for each week and know what activities need to be taken and met during each week from here. The third similarity amongst multimillionaires, they all have a clear vision for the future and they're not complacent around it. Number four, they love what they do. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky for real estate agents. Because most real estate agents love helping people. I love that I help them get in their home. It's great getting to know them. I really help their family and friends now after. And I love it all, right? But they don't love lead generation. And that's a problem because that's the business you're in. You're lead generating in order to be able to help people and feel fulfilled and all that it does create. And that's, I was being sarcastic there, but that's all great and genuine and don't lose that about you, right? But if you don't find a way to love building your business, you're not going to have that many people to help. So find ways to kill two birds with one stone here, right? In life, like, how can you lead generate doing things that you enjoy or you're going to do anyway? I want you to run it through this lens. If you were, well, this is all relative to this group being newer, right? But I want you to think of it as like you're building your business new, but you're doing it in a market where you know nobody. What are the activities that you would do to do that? Because chances are those activities are going to be a combination of like, okay, I know I got to do the hard things, but I also want to go to the gym anyway. And I used to play baseball, and it's summertime, and I'm in a new place. I need to meet people, and why don't I join 6 softball leagues this summer? Because now I've got 75 people I'm adding my database that I've all come close with too. And I'm going to see them again, a lot of them next year, and got the ability to, keep that going. If you're a baseball player, what else to that effect can you apply for the purpose of growing your database and growing your business? What do you like to do already, or are you doing already that would lead to natural organic lead generation type stuff playing out. Number 5, they embrace change. We talked about that a little today. We talked about the market changing. We talked about some of the, potential listing strategies and stuff that changes. Don't run from it, like run towards it, embrace it, figure out what your opportunity is within anything that's changing. So ultimately, if you're not changing, you're not gonna make progress. If you're not changing and you're making progress, perfect. Like keep that going. Most people need to change in order to make the progress, otherwise they'd already be doing it. Number 6, they invest. Fairly obvious. Multimillionaires we're talking about, so they didn't get there just by depositing money that they earned into their bank account, put the money to work for them. Number 7, they're hungry for opportunity. They don't wait for the perfect situation, they just look to get started. I describe that as like the it factor. And I guess if you're thinking you have it, I would run it through that lens. Are you waiting for the perfect situation, or are you just going to go out there and break it, pick up the pieces, and figure out how to do it better next time? Do you have that sort of tenacity and hunger, fire to go out and create your own opportunities, or are you waiting for one to fall in your lap? That's the it factor. And then number 8, they're skewed towards skewed towards meeting as many people as possible. One, multimillionaires just want to have perspective as many people as they can to help influence what they're doing, their thinking. But then also just we'll talk, we'll meet with anybody, because what if that's the next opportunity for them? And that's how to treat this your business too, right? In terms of just really only takes one person to change your life. If you want to be a multimillionaire, there's a good list to figure out where you need to focus on to get more purposeful on any of those topics, or all of them. So I would argue that they all have to happen at all times. Maybe not at all times, but like they all have to happen in order to get to that level. All right, let's open it up. We got 15 minutes for Q&A. Talk to me.
Yeah, can I call for a 2 minutes?
Sure.
Well, they don't have a lot of money,
Okay. Buyer without a lot of money.
and they're very petite, and they're 3 adults in the situation,
Okay.
and they're all busy, and they're asking for a lot.
What?
Well, they want 4 bedrooms and a finished basement. It's a
Okay.
finished basement and a bedroom. They want big enough yard for a pool. They only want,
Let me stop. Does what they want, does it exist? In your professional, confident opinion,
maybe in the market right now.
what's your betting odds on it? Like,
Maybe it's 30%.
okay. So anytime you run it through that filter, right? So ultimately, like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to help these people. Run it through that filter of like, okay, does this even exist? Is this even possible? Is this even remotely doable? And yeah, if you're coming out of that with like, it's under 50% that it is, then that's like your stop and address that. Right. So ultimately, and keep going, but like the next step is likely to be a conversation with them of like, look at, like with what you want. I've only found 2 out of 700 homes that actually fit that.
Especially,
Okay.
I have to, I don't think anything like goes, it's like through there,
Okay.
so I have to repeat very often, very annoying. Like every time I see them, I have to remind them and like over text and like. Oh, it's just like
So what,
every
so let me ask you this. What do you feel the disconnect is between how you're delivering the information that they need to understand, right? And whatever's happening on their side.
I think in the beginning, maybe I didn't do that good of a job, but I have been better
Sure.
at that.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Good realization, because like, first of all, like, listen, here's a leadership thing, okay? And even though, like you all have to understand that you may not be in a leadership position, okay, in the brokerage or whatever, right? But like you're leaders because you're leading clients to their goal, right? So understand that. With that said, a helpful leadership type of hack is that anytime there is a problem or it's not working or we're not making progress, run it through the filter first of, okay, what am I not doing? Now, that's unfair, but that's what leaders do. They're going to attack things first from where it's like, all right, this isn't working. They hired me and this isn't working. What on my end can I look to improve, before I point the finger, so to speak. Now, like I said, it's unfair because it sounds like, sure, there's always room to improve, but it sounds like you've got a pretty good handle on the approach here, right? So,
Like every
just side note there.
every home that like fits like everything that they need, like there's been 3 or 4 now,
Yeah.
have been available. Like, so days and could have had a chance, but normally we wouldn't have it. I just canceled that. But like, you come on it.
Well, have you asked why?
Yeah, no, some reasons.
It's a matter of continuing to poke at this, right? Until you get to the point where on your end, like you just feel that it's wrong for you to continue on professionally, selfishly. And with that additional perspective of like, okay, what am I not doing here to get them to understand or get them to realize or get them on board? And that's the hard part when, working with what sounds to be like people like that, right? But to challenge yourself to do that, this way you're in a position where like if you have to let something go, you're sleeping at night. You made an educated, conscious decision on your end versus just like out of frustration or lack of trying.
Mhm.
And that happens more often than you want it to in this business. Yeah, his first listing opportunity and turned it down because the guy was, in a different yeah. Could have put a sign in the yard, could have put it out there.
Mhm.
He was just unrealistic and it was just wasting his time.
Mhm.
I wanted to get my first listing.
Right.
Saturday. I'm like, this is just what you
Not the
want.
way.
It's just probably not gonna happen. So, yeah, I don't know.
Also leaning into facts and data to come to these decisions, right? Because like one of the points was we actually had a listing on the same street, 35,000 or something under what this guy wanted, and that house was a lot smaller.
Whoever's had like a non-bedroom, 300 more square feet, a driveway. Listed for, 30,000 on there. This guy wanted, wouldn't offer any concessions. So I'm not paying a penny to the other side. It's just, I'm like,
Tough,
I can't do much.
tough.
But
Did you tell them like right then and there that you probably won't?
I entertained it a little longer than I probably should have.
Oh,
I had to get some,
Mhm.
made a difficult decision.
yeah,
Good for you.
because then I was like, I mean, it's good to have a start off there, like a new agent, I'll sign, I'll get some calls. I just didn't think, I just put it all more. You know,
So what's the next step take with them? Like based on where you left off last. So tell me
So
more.
I went and offer for them,
Okay,
like,
strong. Have they written an offer before?
no,
Okay.
they keep like
Okay.
backing out.
So progress.
Yeah,
Is
I want to write it, yeah.
now here's I need to do a better job of just reiterating this probably every single week. Okay. But understand that you're gonna get like here's the playbook if things were gonna go perfectly for you. Right? You'll get that perspective from me a lot, or just in general, training wise and coaching wise, right? How often are things perfect, right? So I'm not telling you you're an impatient person by any means, but I'm telling all of us in the industry that we are from the standpoint of like, understand what we're dealing with and just, the process that it is. That's emotional and stressful and heavy financially and, people uprooting their lives to go somewhere else and home and all of that, right? Requires us to make sure that we're bringing patience to the process and not, having this turn into a difficult, um, difficult like selfishly, right? Where it's just like, get these people off my back. When are they gonna close? Right? Like so that just that notion of like, and I'm not saying you're doing this by any means, but just like, catch yourselves in the moments when you're feeling transactional.
Mhm. I'm hoping that writing an offer will maybe help.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that absolutely because it's a point of progress. You've got them to the table. Even if they come to the table with a crappy offer tonight, right? So like open your mind to those types of
yeah, being productive.
things.
Good,
Yeah.
I mean, this,
Now, the real opportunity comes from though, like taking the moments that you have the ability to apply analytics and data and facts to, right? And to really drive your point home there. So not wishing this on you, but let's just assume you get your teeth kicked in with this offer experience with them, right? And they get blown out of the water. So be purposeful to where it's like, hey, listen, we got to hit the reset button. Got to talk to you and have a difficult conversation. You may not enjoy it, but we really got to make sure that we have the plan in place moving forward to make sure that you reach your goals. That's what you're hiring for. And so far, this ain't it. We got to regroup. We got to do this moving forward. Whatever this is for each situation, that's what we have to find out together. But that's the way you got to be thinking about things in terms of just like, okay, what is going on? What's the next step that I need to take in order to help them make progress? And apply patience. Patience is a big word in general. It's stupid statement that is, but like, it's obvious, right? But it's just like apply patience to most of the things that you have to do in this business, and you'll probably see a better outcome. Like just think of it from the standpoint of using patience to qualify somebody, right? Like every consumer that's out there, putting their information in on whatever website and this and that and talking to agents, most of those agents are just going to immediately jump to like, hey, are you pre-approved and working with an agent? I haven't told you what I'm looking for yet. You don't even know my name yet, right? So that's back to being different, back to being authentic. It doesn't take much these days because frankly, your competition is just looking for a sale. Be patient, get to know people, don't get me wrong, like, yeah, you need to qualify people financially. But just don't, think about the dinner first, right? What else? Who knows?
Mhm. Yeah, database, I gotta look at the amount that I'm spending on database. We talked about it, but just, I don't,
Like,
just,
me.
yeah, just having people to reach out to or try to lead gen, what's a hobby? Networking, I don't know. Playing.
Networking's a hobby, you got an easy street. But we're to correlate, like, that's softball league example, right? Something you want to do more of, or that you're doing already, right? Like if you're going to the gym every day, like be purposeful.
What if we've never talked to anybody at the gym?
Start with one.
I usually avoid eye contact.
I get it.
Jim's a little awkward.
I get it. I get it. It's just, go from 0 to 1 to start. I'm not what I'm not saying. So like, let's take that gym example, right? I'm not saying to pull a 180 from avoiding people now to going to like showing up with a clipboard and a sign up sheet and like, hey, I'd love to get you in my database for real estate. I don't know you, but do you mind signing here?
In my head, though, like, I am telling the one who to even like thinking about it.
Well, that's good. That's progress. That's progress. The bold law of what you focus on expands is so true. Right? It's just the equivalent of like, you ever knock on wood because you don't want something to happen if you put it out there in the universe, right? Or just that general, like, put things out there in the universe, they tend to come true. Like, yeah, just by starting to, well, let's think of it this way. There's a mindset and a skill set for everything that you're gonna do in this business. And yeah, it has to start, in order to work on the skill set of things, you have to have the mindset for it. So just by like opening your thoughts and challenging your perspective and, trying to learn about something new as a starting point does just that. So progress, not perfection.
So the time to, that's how it was with calling people versus so scary, like, you just make one call.
Yep.
Make another one, just kind of.
It's go from 0 to 1 every day. Go from 0 to 1, right? Start by getting your 2 feet on from the bed onto the floor. Take the next step from there. But especially with your business, where to that example, like it's the hardest call to make is the first one. Then you get rolling. Love it. Thanks for hopping on, Zoomers. See you next week. Actually, real quick, we will be off this session next week. I've got to go to mega camp at San Antonio and I fly out Monday. So I'll be getting plenty of fuel to come back with.
Mhm.